January, 1943. At the Birmingham Railway Carriage and Wagon Company works in Smethwick, a new kind of British tank rumbles off the line. 28 tons of steel, riding wide tracks. The turret is already mounted, its 75mm gun in place. But the real story sits beneath the engine deck, a massive V12, far too powerful for anything Britain has fielded before. Because it wasn't built for a tank. It was born in the sky. The engine came from the legendary Rolls-Royce Merlin, the same power plant that drove fighters through the Battle of Britain. Now, stripped down and reworked, it has been forced into a machine that desperately needs it. And it shows. The tank looks hurried. Late. Almost desperate. For 3 years, British armored forces have been fighting a losing battle on land. Earlier cruiser tanks snapped tracks in the desert, overheated, or burned when hit. Crews went into combat knowing their machines might fail them before the enemy ever did. Back in Whitehall, confidence is thin. Promises have been made before. But this one is different. This tank will tear across France at 70 miles a day. It will help liberate Brussels in a matter of hours. It will fight from Normandy to Hamburg, faster than anything else in the Allied arsenal. Its name, the Cromwell tank. To understand why the Cromwell mattered, you have to understand how badly things had gone wrong. Since the 1930s, British tank design followed a rigid, and flawed, philosophy. Slow, heavily armored infantry tanks crawled forward alongside foot soldiers. Cruiser tanks, built for speed, sacrificed durability and reliability to get it. Neither type struck the right balance. Neither carried a truly effective dual-purpose gun. Meanwhile, Germany built something far more practical, balanced medium tanks, machines that combined firepower, protection, and mobility into a single, cohesive design. Britain's problem wasn't just doctrine. It was the engine. Most cruiser tanks still relied on the aging Liberty engine, a relic from the First World War. It leaked, overheated, and struggled to move a 30-ton vehicle without tearing itself apart. The breakthrough came from a man named W. A. Robotham. In 1940, working out of the Clan foundry, Robotham and his team began collecting discarded Merlin engine parts, components rejected for aircraft use but still perfectly functional. They removed the supercharger, simplified the design, and reduced the strain on the system. What they created was the Rolls-Royce Meteor. It produced around 600 horsepower, nearly double the output of the Liberty, while running under far less stress. It wasn't just powerful. It was reliable. Proof came quickly. In April 1941, a test vehicle fitted with the Meteor was unleashed on a trial course near Farnborough. It accelerated so fast that observers with stopwatches failed to record its speed. Spectators scattered as it roared past. At one point, the driver missed a turn and sheared a telegraph pole clean in half. For the first time, a British tank didn't just move. It surged. Getting the engine into production, however, proved far harder than building it. Industry resistance, competing priorities, and wartime pressure nearly killed the project. The turning point came not in a boardroom, but in a pub. At the Swan and Royal in Clitheroe, Ernest Hives and Spencer Wilkes struck a deal. Rover would manufacture the Meteor. In return, Rolls-Royce would take over Rover's struggling jet engine program. It was an extraordinary swap, and it worked. By the end of the war, thousands of Meteor engines had been built. And with them, the Cromwell was finally ready. On paper, it still looked imperfect. Its armor was flat, not sloped. Its 75mm gun struggled against the heaviest German tanks. Against a Tiger I or a Panther tank, it was outmatched. But paper doesn't tell you how a machine fights. The Cromwell was fast, blisteringly fast. Up to 40 miles per hour on roads. Fast enough to strain its own suspension. It could turn sharply, reposition quickly, and exploit gaps before the enemy could react. And that changed everything. Its first real test came on D-Day, June 6, 1944. The 7th Armored Division, the famous Desert Rats, landed in Normandy with the Cromwell as their primary tank. Within a week, they encountered one of the most feared tank commanders of the war, Michael Whitman. At Villers-Bocage, Whitman's Tiger I tore through a column of Cromwells, destroying tank after tank in minutes. British crews fired back, knowing their rounds might not penetrate, and fought anyway. It was a brutal lesson. The Cromwell could not win every fight. So it learned to fight differently. Speed became its weapon. After the breakout from Normandy, the battlefield opened up. The hedgerows were behind them. Open country lay ahead. Now the Cromwell came into its own. British armored units advanced at a pace that stunned even their allies, sometimes covering 70 miles in a single day. On September 3, 1944, Cromwell spearheaded the liberation of Brussels, arriving so quickly that German forces had no time to organize a proper defense. Days later, they pushed deeper, reaching key objectives before retreating forces could destroy them. This wasn't brute strength. It was momentum. Compared to its contemporaries, the Panzer IV, the M4 Sherman, or the T-34, the Cromwell often came up short in firepower or protection. But it offered something different. Speed. Responsiveness. Mechanical confidence. It gave its crews the ability to choose how to fight. And its legacy didn't end there. The Cromwell led directly to the Comet tank, which refined the design and added greater firepower. That evolution continued into the Centurion tank, a machine that would go on to serve around the world for decades. A lineage built not on perfection, but on getting the fundamentals right. The Cromwell wasn't the most powerful tank of the war. It wasn't the best protected. And it arrived later than it should have. But when it finally appeared, it worked. It worked in Normandy. It worked in the race across France. It worked in the streets of Brussels. And it worked all the way to Germany. Not because it dominated the battlefield, but because it moved through it faster than anything that could stop it. That wasn't luck. That was British engineering, finally catching up to the war it had been fighting all along. Most of the world's most famous military vehicles have secrets hidden in their design. To make sure you don't miss our next investigation into the machines that shaped history, subscribe and join us for the next episode.